Now we welcome Mr. Rakesh Maheshwari, sir, to open the summit and give an inaugural speech on the same. The floor is to you, sir. Before that, I would like to give a small introduction of sir. He's an engineer in electronics and telecommunication by qualification from Delhi College of Engineering. Rakesh Maheshwari has spent a total of 25 years working with Government of India, including the last 7 years as Senior Director and Group Coordinator, Cyber Law and Cyber Security in MIT. We welcome you, sir, today to this Indian Data Protection Summit 2022, and we request you to open the summit with your inaugural speech. Over to you, sir.
So, thank you very much. Thanks a lot to FDPAPI, the Foundation of Data Protection Professionals, for inviting me as your inaugural speaker for this version of India Protection Summit 2022. I really feel privileged and like to thank FDPPI and particularly Professor Navi for having given me this opportunity. I could see through the context described by Professor Navi that this virtual summit is going to be an immense kind of a summit where speakers from national, international repute will be sharing their views on all the, I should say, state-of-the-art matters, whether it is about global laws or about privacy in corporate world, cross-border data flow, or on emerging technology, or on data audits and similar issues. Though I work in government, I mean, as far as this interaction is concerned, I would like to convey it in the beginning itself that here I am talking in my personal capacity and not representing government's views on the topics that on the issues that I am going to talk about. Having said so, we are living in a world where it's plenty of data now. There are, in fact, the mobile ecosystem particularly coming into picture, and Google Play Store itself having about 3.5 million apps, around 2 million apps by the Android, by Apple iOS system. We are having huge number of apps, and almost all such apps in their default configuration look forward to have a lot of personal data being collected. Many of them do want to collect almost your contact details, your location, mic, your ability to read SMS, speaker, storage, and many other things. In fact, any mobile manufacturer for that reason is also looking for data collection. Every operating system running on such mobiles is also wanting to collect data. There are around 20 crore active websites, which over a period of time, they're not just information websites, they are all interactive websites. And to that extent, we are flooded and will continue to remain flooded with lot of personal data, and with the intent of all these organizations and stakeholders wanting to have more and more such data for doing their activities, for doing their businesses. And to that extent, data is therefore a business issue. It contributes significantly to the GDP of any country. Aggregated data. So one is about my personal data, but when we look at from a government perspective or at a national scenario, this aggregated data is also about data sovereignty, security of the country. And therefore, yes, there is definitely a need for a comprehensive legislation to be there in place. Because as on today, what we have with us is the IT Act, which I will be in any case talking about. We have today with us the Honorable Supreme Court's judgment, wherein privacy has already been conveyed as the fundamental right. Having said so, let's see what are the provisions in the existing cyber law, existing IT Act. And why I'm particularly talking about the IT Act is that, first of all, the proposed Personal Data Protection Bill, which was introduced in Parliament in 2019, November 2019, discussed a lot by the Joint Parliamentary Committee, which submitted its report in December 2021, has already been withdrawn, as was mentioned by Professor Navi, on 3rd of August 2022. And therefore, while the government is working for the new data protection bill, once again, the whole process will have to be followed. In near future, we will be coming up with a, I should say, we will be going in for public comments. And as usual, 30 days to 45 days will have to be given for public comments also, compilation of public comments, going back to, vetting by the law department, going to the parliament, discussion in the parliament, and the bill of such nature, which are quite technical also. The past experience shows, whether it was the IT Act 2000 or IT Act amendment in 2008, or in fact the PDP bill 2019, there is definitely like to be an intense discussion either within the parliament or through a small group constituted either in the form of standing committee itself or maybe a GPC. So that means, while we are talking and we are expecting and we are wanting to have the new data protection law, a comprehensive data protection law, to be in place as soon as possible, unfortunately, it is likely to take some time. And even if it comes today, the fact is that there is a transition period in the just, I should say, the previous bill. There was a proposed transition of 2 years. Maybe government can decide to reduce the transition, because by this time, many countries across the globe have already come up with their privacy protection laws. Most of the companies, most of the apps, most of the websites who are already dealing with particularly across the borders and otherwise also, that they are getting to know that in any case, privacy is something which they will have to follow. Therefore, it is possible that the government says that the transition time maybe is reduced from 2 years to 1 year. So even in the best scenario, to me, it appears that the effective date of the new data protection bill is still 1.5 years away from now. And it is during this period that the existing cyber law, particularly the IT Act, will continue to play its role as far as the privacy, security of personal data, security of sensitive personal data, and all such related matters are concerned. So it is therefore important to understand as to what exactly are the provisions. I'll not directly go into all the provisions, but definitely talk a little bit about it, that the IT Act as of today, by section 43, already provides for some sort of a data protection regime in the country. Unauthorized data access, data copying, data destroyal. There are about 8, I should say, clauses being mentioned in section 43. And then section 43, capital A, also talks of protection of or security of sensitive personal data or information, which is being processed by the body corporate. Of course, the definition of processing continues to be the same as was there in the PDP bill, the withdrawn PDP bill, which includes the entire life cycle of the personal data bill, of the personal data, starting from its generation, collection, moderation, restructuring, reorganization, storing, transferring, and maybe disposal. So while the present IT Act, Section 43A, along with its rules, which are popularly known as sensitive personal data protection rules 2011, do provide a semblance of what the personal, what the security of personal information should be. Of course, if you look at the rules, it does talk of data minimization. It does talk of consent management. It does talk of ability to withdraw the consent. It does talk of data or limitation of data transfer to any data processor, and that some prior consent should be taken. It does talk of data correction. So to that extent, principles of what a privacy law should have are already built into it. The only exception is that, yes, scope-wise, it is limited to sensitive personal information on one side, and in terms of the coverage of the organizations, it does not really cover the government organizations. There are, however, other, I should say, sections also within the IT Act. I should say, released directions from CERT-In also provides for, many of these directions also provide for availability of such data as and when the government requires, or maybe the kind of data which should be there, or the incidents which need to be reported within within 6-hour period. And to that extent, data breaches happen because of some vulnerabilities, and to that extent, data breaches are nothing but the security incidents which need to be reported to today to Computer Emergency Response Team, and maybe possibly tomorrow when the Data Protection Authority or a Data Protection Board comes in, to Data Protection Authority or Board, as well as to CERT-In. So some provisions, in fact, large number of provisions already exist. Even in the IT rules, even in Section 79A, the intermediary rules, intermediary guidelines and digital media ethics code 2021, the amendment in 2022 that we just concluded, that we just released, we are talking of a robust grievance redressal mechanism. We are talking of any security incident being reported. We are talking of any intermediary for that reason to publish their privacy policies. Even within government, we have Government of India guidelines for websites and apps, which does require all government departments to publish their privacy policy with respect to the websites, with respect to the apps which they are operating. So from the IT Act perspective and the related activities or the related regulation, there is already something, in fact, a reasonably amount of, I should say, privacy protection features available. Of course, there are further by regulations from sectors, particularly RBI, there are further restrictions, particularly on the cross-border data flow of the financial data. So I'm sure in time to come, there will be further sectoral regulations, and in any case, hopefully, shortly, we should see the draft of the new proposed data protection bill to become available, hopefully in a month's time. So going further, in line with the theme of this workshop, namely shape of things to come, I will like to now mention as to what needs to be done, or in which directions things are likely to move ahead. As far as, so I'll be just talking about the various stakeholders, and of course, in any case, we are talking about the legal part. So on the legal part, I have already conveyed that that the new data protection bill should be there. Laws are supposed to be technology agnostic, and therefore, irrespective of the way the technology is evolving, which is evolving very fast, of course, the issues will keep emerging. The law should be such that it should be simple, it should be flexible to be able to take up the new challenges, and therefore should be able to sustain for a reasonably long period of time. The artificial intelligence and machine learning, so emerging technologies, which was talked about, and particularly Professor Navi also talked about the the new sector you have talked about. So in all of these, if we look at from the technology perspective, it is about AI and ML. And particularly if this AI ML is used in the health sector, in financial sectors, there will and there can be once again the issues relating to the privacy. The new law has to be a principle-based law, which should therefore be able to, flexible enough to allow the newer regulations on the need basis. The new law should, of course, also provide for innovation and should not create too much of compliance obligations for the startups and the SMEs. Any law should be able to take learnings from the existing law, and existing law means the shortcomings of the existing IT Act should therefore be, the new law should be such that those shortcomings hopefully are not there. And as soon as I talk of shortcomings, I do believe that while the IT Act, from its intent perspective, still has been quite flexible, maybe from an implementation perspective, the adjudication mechanism, the cyber harms, the unlawful contents, the way and the speed at which it should have been addressed, probably it could not do the kind of justice. And therefore, the new law should be such that the governance framework, the mechanism which is developed is flexible enough, is competent enough, is independent enough to be able to get the right resources, to be able to carry out the investigations, to be able to carry out the adjudication as soon as possible, as you had mentioned, sir, and to be able to develop the new rules and regulations on the need basis, including the ever expanding and the ever changing maybe definitions relating to the sensitive personal data or personal, of course, sensitive personal data and the critical personal data as the need may. From the organizational front, I do believe that whether an organization is a data fiduciary or a processor or maybe both, the organizations are going to work in a global environment. The organizations will have to be aware of the global requirements and the trends. Like in software, for example, we originally were focusing on the functionality. Later on, we were focusing on the secure software development. The organizations will have to develop the practices relating to privacy by design. So a new, of course, it's already there. It's not that all that I'm talking is not there, but definitely the focus will more and more change towards this secure software development, as well as development ensuring design or privacy by design. A good incident response mechanism needs to be developed. A data protection officer, maybe particularly in the larger organization, will have to be there. Professor Navi talked about, in fact, QRC presentation, Mr. Vamsi also mentioned about the data audits. So regular data audits, because per se, the government or the whichever regulatory body comes in will not be able to carry out the regular data audits, which should also be required. To that extent, I do believe that regular third-party independent audits will be the need of the day with respect to the privacy. Particularly, if you look at the new developments in ISO 27001 front, where the standard ISO 27001, which has just been released, already talks of not just about the information security, but also talks about cyber security and personal data protection. I now come to the expectations from the government. Two clear expectations: one, to come up with the bill as soon as possible, and of course, in time to come, develop the rules, regulations, develop establish the data protection regulatory body, board, whichever way it comes up. But government has also the onus of, so no longer 43A will be applicable to the body corporate. It will be equally applicable, because of privacy being a fundamental right, will be equally applicable to the government organizations, unless specifically, I mean, some of them, which for the reasons of the law enforcement, which because of their association with protection of sovereignty and integrity of the country, or such defense kind of organizations. So exemptions will normally not be the rule, but will have to be there. And for all other organizations, for all other government organizations, they will also be required to follow the law in the same spirit as is expected by the body corporate. And to that extent, a lot of sensitization, a lot of capacity building. Once again, because government also does software development, government also manages so many systems, government also outsources. So whether in the capacity of data fiduciary, or whether in the capacity of data controller, or in fact, I should say, whether in the capacity of discharging the sovereign functions which the governments are supposed to do, governments will have to be very clear that the data which they collect is used for the purposes and not beyond, even when they are exempted under the law. Exempted only with respect to not seeking permission for collection. From the consumer perspective, because that's another stakeholder or a user perspective, what we expect is that in time to come, a lot of awareness will have to be created about the implications of the privacy, need to secure their personal data. What should they be downloading and what should they not be downloading? The privacy policy, the way they should be, offered, should be simple to be understood in their own language. And to that extent, I hope before they click as of today, as if they have understood all the terms and conditions, I believe in time to come, the users also need to be made aware what they are clicking on as the contract. So awareness with respect to their rights, awareness with respect to their responsibilities, awareness with respect to their ability to withdraw consent, their ability to seek amendments, their ability to whatever rights are created by the law, they should be well aware. Finally, I would like to conclude that as we work in a global economy, my request to all the stakeholders, including, of course, government, that please don't wait for the law, start acting, start using the best practices, because privacy laws are already there. Privacy laws, further privacy law is a matter of time. They will be there. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Rakesh, sir, for your valuable knowledge and insights you have shared today with us. Thank you for the inaugural speech. I even thank all the participants, speakers, and organizers, sponsors who have praised the summit and joined us and shown interest here.